Thank you for joining us and your interest in the Dallas Museum of Art. I'm Dan Routman, and I'm pleased to be with you today as a past board member and former chair of the Marketing and Development Committees. I've been close to the DMA for a long time. During my involvement, the visitor experience has always been at the heart of the DMA's activity, and we continue to find new and compelling ways to enhance that experience. Over the past few months, I've been working with DMA Director Max Anderson and Deputy Director Rob Stein to lead a task force of dedicated museum trustees and staff on a new initiative that will expand audience engagement with the DMA and alter the way cultural institutions approach visitor participation. Leading the DMA is Director Max Anderson, who joined the museum in January 2012 and has brought fresh and innovative thinking to the DMA and its programming. From new technological initiatives like the online dashboard and the Laboratory for Museum Innovation, to expanding the museum's in-house capabilities with the addition of a new painting conservation studio and the launch of a program in Islamic art with connections overseas. Max has been creating new opportunities to connect with our local audiences and the global community. It is his vision for the continued growth of the Dallas Museum with the support of museum leadership that has been the driving force of bringing this new program to fruition. We're all very excited about the launch of this groundbreaking initiative and to participate in the many new directions he will take our museum. And with that, I will turn the program over to Max so that he can share with you the details of today's announcement. We hope that you find the news as exciting and promising as we do. Thank you for your time.
Dan, thank you very much for your kind remarks, also your leadership of the task force, which has been an exciting opportunity for board and patrons and volunteers and staff to get together and think about ways that the DMA can be a more significant contributor to the life of our community. A couple of very cosmetic things before we move into the main event. One is, you may notice on the screen, a different look and feel to the graphic identity of the museum. We decided, since everybody called us DMA, we should probably call ourselves DMA. So this is actually the first time we've had a graphic identity that says that, and it will be easier for you to find and refer to. And perhaps even more surgically, we finally went about and succeeded in acquiring DMA.org. So for all of you who have typed over the years, DallasMuseumofArt.org, please stop and start this new approach. Save yourselves a few milliseconds every hour, and before long we'll all save thousands of hours around the world. But Rob Stein, our deputy director, was intrepid at what was involved in making this happen because it had been owned by another party for several years. And the importance of it for us is it clarifies the graphic identity and it reinforces the point that we want to be more accessible to our visitors. It'll reflect itself today on the website, changing over to a website at dma.org with all that graphic identity change. And the new website will also introduce a series of things that we're going to talk to you about today. And we're pleased to have all of this ahead of us. What we're announcing today is something that we feel is important for the institution, important for the field, and important for the city of Dallas. And it has to do with the fact that over time, art museums have presented themselves as effectively destinations for the last generation or so, destinations that are commercially minded in part as tourist attractions and competing in effect with other arenas. But today we're announcing a return to free general admission at the Dallas Museum of Art. Thank you. Free general admission is really a function of two things, one philosophical and the other financial. The philosophical point of view is that we're in a building that's owned by the city of Dallas, paid for by the taxpayers of this city. The city supports us in other material ways financially. But in effect, as a municipal art museum, we have an obligation to our public that rises above the provision of a tourist destination. We are a research institution, we're an educational institution, we care for cultural heritage, we advocate the work of artists of our time, and we do all of this for the public. For the public, our goal is simply to make ourselves more engaging, a more participatory experience, and less of one with barriers. And of course, the first barrier for people to an art museum is admission. It may not feel that way every day you come in, but I can promise you there are legions and legions of Dallasites for whom the decision to part with a small amount of money to some, but a large amount to others, is a barrier. And in effect, what we're saying is it matters more to us to have participation than to have the marginal amount that general admission accounts for in a general art museum. And the statistics are clear on this. If you're in New York City and you have tourism in the tens of millions, frequently of affluent international tourists who are prepared to part with significant sums to visit attractions, that's one world, but it's a world apart from the rest of the United States. For almost every other metropolitan area, the tourism component is a function of who we are, but it doesn't drive us. Here, our audience is our audience. It's Dallasites, it's people in the Metroplex, it's people throughout North Texas and around the region, as well as tourists. But our goal should not be to address the tourism factor, it should be to address who we're serving, and those very taxpayers that I mentioned. So with that in mind, we made a point to the Board of Trustees earlier on that art museums are different from other types of cultural institutions. We thrive based on philanthropy. We solicit and receive generous support annually from individuals, from foundations, from corporations, and of course from, in our case, city government. And with that support, we're able to carry on, provide the types of programs and opportunities for our visitors that matter, but also undertake the core professional work that's behind the scenes. And what separates us from most other types of institutions is how much of that cost-intensive work is behind the scenes. It starts with researching objects on the part of our curators, caring for them with our registrars and art handlers, and now our new conservation program, which has expanded. It's looking at the ways in which, as an institution, we provide access to the history of culture. Equally, as a very strong program in the contemporary art field, we have an advocacy effort in acquiring works of art of uncertain futures that we believe in and speculating on the promise of creative enterprise in our time. All of that is very expensive, but very little of it touches on the revenue at the gate. If you add up the top 130 art museums' expenses over the course of the last couple of years, we average about $2.1 billion across the country in expenses as art museums. But we also average only about $116 million in earned revenue from tickets. So the proposition that we made to the board was, if we're looking at about 2% of our budget coming from general admission, is there any other way we could find that through an increased effort to involve the public, to solicit support, and to move forward as an organization that's committed to opening its doors? And happily, the board was in complete agreement that this move was an important one for the institution, but equally an important one for the city and for all who are part of it. But we're doing something else today. We're announcing that for the first time, an art museum is not only extending free admission to the public, but free membership. So what does this mean? Typically, the transactional relationship that art museums have is a relationship of offering one thing for another. If you join as a member, here are the benefits you receive. And that's a very familiar enterprise. It touches us in all parts of our lives. But there's a very simple anecdote I can share with you about why I think it's important for us to make this change today. If you're a family of four and you make the trip to the DMA, walk in the door, or for that matter, any other art museum in the country, one of the first questions that comes to you after a polite greeting, welcome to the DMA, is, are you a member? For everybody in this room, that probably means, have you joined the museum? For most of America, and probably most of the rest of the world, it means, what makes you think you belong here? Are you a member? So what we've decided to say is that everyone belongs here, so everyone should be a member. And starting on January 21st, we will offer both free admission and free membership. And what that means is that everyone coming in the door has the option, not the obligation, not only to walk in for free and go through the permanent collection at their leisure, but also to be given a membership in the institution. And that membership is a different model from what other art museums offer, obviously, first of all, because it's free. But what it also will allow us to do, if someone opts into that program, is to begin building a personal relationship with that individual, as opposed to counting them as a number of a membership or a number of households around the city and region that join. Today we have about 20,000 member households at the DMA. We certainly hope that by offering free memberships, we can expand that number exponentially. But what we also hope we can do is begin learning from each visitor as an individual about their tastes, their preferences, their habits, what they'd like to see happen here, what type of experience we can offer for them. And if they opt into the program, we can begin trading information with each other. Part of the core of this, which Rob Stein, our Deputy Director, will introduce in a moment, is to think about the relationship with visitors not as transactional in the same sense, but as one of engagement and partnership. And with that, I'm going to ask Deputy Director Rob Stein to come up and give some of the mechanics of how this change will come to fruition starting in January. Rob?
Good morning. Thank you for being here. I'm really excited to have this day here finally. Dozens of us across the museum have been working over the summer extensively to design programs that Max was beginning to allude to that we're calling DMA Friends, and a second program that we're calling DMA Partners. Both of these are designed to really engage our communities and our investors and supporters with the museum's mission and with the art and artists represented in our collection. So the DMA Friends program, we'll get this, is designed to really promote that participation and engagement with the art. We, as Max alluded to earlier, we really believe that rather than joining a program of membership, your participation with the museum is what really makes our community work the best. So our staff here has been designing a program that we're calling DMA Friends, which would be free to anyone who would wish to join it, and includes dozens of new ways to connect with the museum in bundles of activities that you can do when you arrive here at the DMA. The DMA Friends program will launch on January 21st in 2013. The same day that we're launching our free admission, free general admission to the public. When you show up at the museum, instead of being asked, are you a member, you'll be asked instead, would you like to be a friend of the DMA? And if so, you'll be able to visit a kiosk in the museum that will be at the entryway. And these kiosks will be very easy to use, and with a few clicks of a button, you'll be issued a membership card, a DMA Friends card. With which you can participate around the museum in a bundle of different kinds of activities. These activities we're calling badges, and badges are a way that we can recognize the value of participation, and we can give our visitors a way to track how they have engaged with the museum over a period of time. Our education staff and our visitor services staff, together with a number of other staff across the museum, have really brainstormed the ways in which we can construct these badges that are interesting, that are fun, and that give you a new way to experience the DMA. So we have an example here. One of the most loved areas in our museum is the Center for Creative Connection. And many people know that you can visit the center and make things, sitting right in the maker bar, they call it. An example of a badge would be this creative cat. And it says on the screen here, calling all creative cats. Love to make things? Visit our making space in the Center for Creative Connections 3 times, and we'll award you a special creative cat badge. Your creations are the cat's meow. So on the bottom, you can see that there's 3 of 5 steps completed, and as you go through the process and you complete the rest of this badge, you'll earn the equivalent of a set of points. So why points? What we'd like to be able to do is begin to incentivize the participation of visitors from across Dallas and the cultural communities here to really figure out new ways that they can plug in. So this would be one example. The points that you would earn from these badges, instead of needing to purchase benefits through membership, your participation would allow you to redeem your points for a series of rewards. Rewards may be as simple as a free ticket to a special exhibition or free parking in our garage. They may get a little more elaborate. We know that the general public loves to get a peek at the behind-the-scenes working of the museum. There are a lot of special experiences and boutique activities that we can make available to our friends because we really appreciate the way that they connect and plug in with us at the DMA. So as a friend of the DMA and the same system that you would track your engagement and participation, you'd be able to redeem any badges and points that you've earned for rewards. Those would be your choice, and I think you'll find that they'll be very engaging and creative. The second program that I mentioned earlier is called DMA Partners. And Max alluded to this earlier, and what we've found and what other art museums across the country have found is that philanthropy is what really makes possible the mission of the museum. Whether that philanthropy is from individuals, corporations, or foundations, the support of those organizations and individuals is the reason why we exist as a museum today. It's why we can host hundreds of thousands of people, and it's why we can return to free general admission. So the DMA Partners program is really designed by our development staff and our new Associate Director of External Affairs, Anne Bergeron, to reflect a more engaged form of philanthropy that begins to connect those supporters in new ways according to their interests with the programs and mission of the DMA. The DMA Partners program will also launch on January 21. It's going to be a big day. It will be a conversion of the current membership program that we have in place to one, as I said, that also focuses on engagement, but recognizes the role that partners play in their philanthropic support in making the wheels go around here at the DMA. Current members, and Max mentioned we have some 20,000 of those, have been supporting the DMA for a long time. And so we really want to ensure that they feel taken care of and included and excited about the new program. So any current member of the DMA will retain all of their member benefits and will in fact be bumped up a level in our partner program as a way of saying thank you for being a part for quite a long time. This is the obligatory screen with the text that no one in the room can read. So instead, it's intended to represent the tiers of partner benefits and how those actually work. Probably a better way to get at that is to go to our website with our new web address, dma.org/partners, where you can download this chart and get all of the information about the membership and partnership benefits that we're launching on the 21st. So, again, to review, we are moving to free general admission to the DMA. This will begin on January 21st in 2013. We are also launching a program called DMA Partners, which focuses on the engaged participation of communities throughout Dallas for free. And I'm sorry, that's the DMA Friends program, and the DMA Partners program, which incentivizes the philanthropy of supporters of the museum in a new way. All of that will begin on Monday, January 21st. The museum is normally closed on Monday, but will be opening specially in order to celebrate this occasion. So in advance of that, we will be sending each of you an invitation for a press preview on January 17th. Where we hope to be able to show you more of the details and enroll you all as friends of the DMA. You'll be able to come to the museum and see how all of our activities and badges are going to work. We'll be able to print you out DMA Friends cards, and you'll be able to begin earning points and rewards. So I hope that you'll all come back. And I think Max and I will be available now and afterwards for some questions that you might have. And thank you all for attending.
Thank you very much, Rob. You know, having a talented colleague like Rob Stein, who drove this process, has been indispensable, and having Anne Bergeron join us as our new Associate Director for External Affairs, who is helping manage the transition, is also indispensable to help Dan Routman and his committee and the rest of the museum's administration and staff make the transition. I want to make sure you're clear on 2 points. One, if you'd like to walk into the museum on January 21st, and not be talking to nobody, that's fine. Just walk in, it'll be free, no need to join, no need to participate, no need to go to a screen. And for a lot of our visitors, that'll be their preference, and that's just fine. And the second point is that we've already begun conversations with institutions around the country about this program very confidentially, and we're fairly certain that it will become a national model and be adopted by other institutions for the simple reason that lower-level memberships, entry-level memberships, are not in fact financial drivers of our peer institutions any more than they were for us. And instead, what we'd like to begin to see is a new protocol for engaging the public and providing opportunities for lifetime learning, which is really, in effect, what we're here to provide. So with that, you may not have any questions. I don't want to assume, but if there are any, yes?
How will the new free DMA friend status affect the reciprocal benefits at other museums? Is that part of your conversation?
Right. Well, that will be through the DMA Partners program. So DMA Partners, which starts at $100 a year, will of course be enrolled in that program as long as it continues in its current iteration. That program is, as you know, a very frothy one. It changes over time. Institutions drop in, drop out. And clearly, once we launch this program and once you've announced it for us today, we'll be in conversation with a lot of peer institutions about how we could work with them around this. But basically, anyone at $100 partner membership will be part of that reciprocal program. Yeah.
What happens to the student memberships? Like, will it also be like a student partnership available?
Well, again, anything under $100 is going to be free. So students simply sign up as DMA friends and acquire all those benefits as a result of it. And I'm pretty confident that students, unlike the rest of the population, are going to quickly figure out how to accrue points. I'm reasonably sure that you'll get points, for example, when you friend us on Facebook. You'll get points when you mention us in a tweet. You'll get points when you blog about us. So it'll be no issue for students to quickly ramp up and receive more benefits than they did in their previous membership. Is that fair to say?
Fair enough.
Yes?
On an average, over the last 5 years, what is the annual revenue that would be lost with having free admission?
Yeah, so losing revenue is an interesting way to frame it because, of course, we're repurposing in some ways because we're going to grow our audience significantly by going to free general admission. And I think $1.2 million was a number that we cited to the Board of Trustees as the area in which general admission today is counted. And then, of course, you add membership to that as well, which is going to go away as an income stream for the institution. I think the economic model is a pretty straightforward one. We expect to see a six-figure surge in attendance at the institution and therefore an increase in the number of people who will decide to participate and in some cases spend electively, such as joining as a partner. We also expect some of our partners to increase their support, which has already begun to happen. Certainly members of our board who are aware of this, several have already stepped up and say, I am so excited about this transition. I would like to support free admission and free membership. So the swings for our budget, which is north of $20 million, there's a significant issue to make sure we address. But the calculations we've done have been that the adoption of this program will be sufficient to offset the expense associated with foregoing general admission income. Yes?
What was the experience in Indianapolis?
Well, we did the same thing in Indianapolis up to a point. We certainly didn't introduce free membership because that is a very new idea and will be, I think, widely examined by our peers. We saw an increase immediately in the number of visitors. We also saw an increase in the types of support we received. We were able to make a better case for ourselves to supporting organizations, particularly foundations, corporations, and agencies, to say, we're a free institution. We're the only cultural institution of scale that's free in the city of Dallas. We want to be supported for this because we believe it's essential as an offering. And I would make a very key distinction about art museums from other types of cultural destinations. We're intimidating by definition. We have expensive things, that we have guards, we have this sense of protection that surrounds the visit, as distinct from our beautiful new neighbor, the Perot Museum, which is a place that's meant to be engaging without any of that issue facing you. So our hurdle is different from our peers as art museums. And typically the challenge for art museums is how do you make yourselves more accessible and less intimidating? And we believe the DMA Friends program is the single best way to do that. And we also recognize that over time it will transform the institutions activities and experiences and the working methods and how you're treated when you walk in the door and what you go home with and what you go online with as a function of your connection. So there are a lot of changes to come here that have never been experimented in any other institution that's gone free. Did I see something back there? No. Well, Rob and Ann and Dan and I will be here as we close the proceedings this morning. We want to thank you all for coming and encourage you to stay in touch. Jump on our new website if you haven't already. Feel free to keep people apprised of what we're up to. We look forward to hearing from all of you about how it's working, things you would see as ways of improving it, because it is a great change, but also it comes with lots of questions that we'll be eager to hear from the public and from experts in the field alike about. So I want to thank Dan and Rob and Ann very much for this morning, and I want to thank all of you for coming and giving us your attention. Much obliged.